Okay, so this video is going to be just a little bit longer than the other ones because I'm going to do multiple impromptus today. That's right. 3 speeches, 1 video. Let's get into it. Speech number 1. I had 13 cough drops in one morning because I was supposed to audition for the Old State Choir and it was in the autumn, so I have seasonal allergies sometimes. And I was really scared to audition, but I really wanted to. So I wanted to be in that Old State Choir and I auditioned for it. I did my best and eventually I heard back I had made it. And that brings us to today's quote. Set your goals high and don't stop until you get there, from Bo Jackson. Now, to me, this means that we cannot just like stay where we are. We have to go up. We have to set a goal and work to reach it. And my evidence for this is Legally Blonde, Harriet Tubman, and Michelle Obama. To begin, let's look at Legally Blonde. Legally Blonde follows Elle Woods as she is broken up with by her boyfriend Barrett and decides that the best way to get back with him is not some extravagant Valentine's Day style show of love, but to follow him to Harvard Law School in Massachusetts. And she decides to apply to Harvard Law School and she studies. She works hard to get there. She studies so hard that she gets a 179 on the LSAT. Now, what the movie doesn't tell you is that the highest score you can get on the LSAT is only 180. So that was really good. And she also in her application focused on a creative video essay which set her apart from her competition. And she is set apart throughout the movie because Elle, in order to get to her high goal, values her individuality. She values her passion for fashion. She values the unique connections she can make with others in the world. And that individuality and uniqueness makes Elle a good lawyer. It gives her unique knowledge that she can use in cases, as she eventually finds out that her passion for the law is a thing, an effort, an end in and of itself, that she doesn't need Baron for. She can be a lawyer, and that her individual knowledge can help her solve a case because she knows that if you take a shower the same day you get a perm, your curls will not remain intact because the ammonium thioglycolate will denature. And that really shows us that when Elle set her goal high, now Harvard was not a goal in and of itself for Elle. Harvard was only a means, but because her goal to get back with her boyfriend was high, she had accomplished high means like it was nothing. And when her admissions officer, her college counselor, asked Elle that what her alternative plan was, she said, I don't need one. I'm going to Harvard. What? Like, it's hard? Because for Elle, her goal wasn't hard. It was just the goal that she had her eyes set on. That and nothing else. And that is all she needed. Moving forward, we can also look at Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman was a conductor on the Underground Railroad, and she famously freed hundreds of people from slavery. Harriet herself was born in Maryland, enslaved, and once she had escaped slavery and got into Pennsylvania, she decided to go back south of the Mason-Dixon line and help others, because the goal, the ultimate goal here, was the abolition of slavery and the freedom of everyone. And nothing, no means was too much for that. No danger that Harriet could face going back was too much for that, because she just had to go to work towards the total abolition and to work towards freeing as many people as she could. And that really set her apart. Her selflessness here, it set her apart. Even her last words were, I go to prepare a place for you, because her ultimate goal was to help others, and that informed everything about her. Moving forward, we also have Michelle Obama. Now, Michelle Obama, a famous quote from her that relates to today's quote is, when they go low, we go high. Just like how when we set our goals high, nothing can stop you. And Michelle Obama famously is a former First Lady of the United States. And she is from, not there, obviously. She's from Chicago. She worked her way up. She became a great First Lady. She not only was the wife of President Barack Obama, but she also worked in the government herself with initiatives that helped people all over the country, especially in American schools. And that really shows that the goal lets us get high, because when the goal is high, that is what we have our mind set on, and that is what we focus on. And Michelle Obama here is going high no matter how low everyone else is going, because our goal is high and her goal is high. And to recapitulate and conclude, we have Legally Blonde, Harriet Tubman, and Michelle Obama. And our analysis of those sources, led us to our interpretation of the quote, "Set your goals high and don't stop until you get there." And that when our goal is set high, we can't stop, because we are like a horse with blinders on. All our eye is on that goal. And no matter how many cough drops we need to take, we're gonna get there. Thank you. That was speech number 1. Now for speech number 2. It was my first speech tournament, and I was slated to do prose. Now for prose, you're supposed to have a black book. I hadn't seen a black book before, so I just heard the 2 words black book and thought, oh, if I just bring a black binder with my script in it, I'll be fine. So I went ready to get on the bus with a 12-inch black binder with my script in it. And only then did I realize that's not what a black book is. A black book, for your information, is supposed to be the size of a paperback novel, not a 12-inch binder. So I could have stopped right there and let that singular experience define who I was, and that maybe I wasn't meant for speech because this black binder wasn't meant for speech. But I didn't, because our quote from Shrek says, after a while, you learn to ignore the names people call you and trust you know who you are. And to me, this means that we cannot look to singular experiences and the words of other people. We have to look inward to define our identity and who we are. And my evidence for this is Wicked, Lady Gaga, and Mean Girls. To begin, let's look at Wicked. Wicked, like Shrek, follows a person who is green, Elphaba. Elphaba is marginalized throughout her life, and when she gets to Sid University and sees that the animals are being discriminated against by the wizard, whom she had previously wanted to be his grand vizier, Elphaba turns on the wizard. She decides to advocate for the marginalized animals of Oz and to seek justice. And because of this, she is called wicked by the people of Oz, but she was never really wicked, not because of what other people said, but because of who she was and because of who she chose to be. Elphaba chose to advocate for others and to stand up to injustice, and because of that, she was really good, regardless of what other people said about her. Moving forward, we also have Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga was born in New York, and her given name was Stephanie Germanotta. And when Lady Gaga was younger, there was a whole dedicated Facebook group titled Stephanie Germanotta Will Never Be Famous. But a quote from Lady Gaga that really stands out to me is, "I've always been famous. It's just now that everyone sees it." Because Lady Gaga's famousness is a character trait of her. It is not something that is bestowed upon her by the respect and the well opinions of other people. It is something that comes from herself, because Lady Gaga can define herself. And that inspires her to have famously avant-garde fashion choices, to make music that may not appeal to everyone, but appeals to the most important people to her, and appeals to Lady Gaga herself, because Lady Gaga is in art for herself, because that is what she wants to do. Moving forward, we also have Mean Girls. Mean Girls follows Katie Heron as she moves from Africa all the way to the United States and is in her first class ever, as she was homeschooled previously. Now, when Katie Heron gets to high school and she's in her first classes ever, she thinks that she needs to define her identity in relation to others. She needs to be with the popular girls, the plastic. She needs to be with Regina, Gretchen. She needs to be with Karen. But really, Katie could define herself as a person, and she could choose friends that she likes. She could choose Damien and she could choose Janice, because in the end, the limit does not exist. And Katie could set whatever she wanted as her goal because she could choose for herself. And to recapitulate and conclude, it is not others and it is not singular experiences that define us. It is ourselves. From the quote, "After a while, you learn to ignore the names people call you and just trust who you are," from Shrek. And when we see that the outside doesn't matter, but the inside does, and that even if we have a 12-inch binder, that doesn't mean we aren't not meant for speech. It means that we are ready to grow because we can interpret the world however we like. Thank you. That was speech 2. Now for 3. Wait, 3. Madame Morrible MM, flip it around, Wicked Witch. It was August, and I was in the 5th grade, ready to start school with a brand new pack of colored pencils, perfectly sharp and pristine and unused. And they stayed that way because I never used them throughout the year. Even though I could have made beautiful art, I could have gotten better at drawing, I could have colored, I wanted my pencils to stay sharp and pretty and unused. And I let that desire for sharp pencils overcome the fear of overcome what I could have done and what I could have created had I not been so scared of exploring that unknown of creating art. And that brings us to today's quote. "Make sure your worst enemy doesn't live between your own two eyes," from Laird Hamilton. Now, to me, this means that we cannot let our preconceived notions of what other people may think or what we may think of ourselves define the world for us and limit us. And my evidence for this is the film Inside Out, the athlete and figure skater Alyssa Liu, and the film Legally Blonde. Now, to begin, let's look at Inside Out. Inside Out quite literally follows the enemy inside of someone's head. Riley moves from Minnesota to California and San Francisco, and she experiences a tempestuous inner mind that is really stressful for her. She is scared and disgusted and angry and sad all at once while she's used to being happy. But Riley needs to realize that California isn't an enemy, and the preconceived notions she has of what California means and what moving away means need to be challenged. She needs to go out and join a new hockey team. She needs to find new friends and new community in California, and she needs to challenge that enemy in her head. She needs to realize that almost everything that she had believed isn't set in stone. She can realize that sadness isn't inherently bad. She can realize that it's okay to feel scared, but we need to go out and look at the new world anyway, because it can be beautiful. Moving forward, we also have Alyssa Liu. Alyssa Liu actually quit skating for 2 years after her first time at the Olympics, because she had defined skating for herself as something that was stressful, something that was work, something that was really toxic for her, so she left it. But when she decided that she could look at skating through a new angle and a new lens, she found joy in it. She found fun in skating, and she, even at the Olympics, performed to a pop song stateside from Pink Panthers. And that really shows that when we redefine our problems, we can find new solutions. We can see that skating doesn't have to be bad, it can be a source of joy. And another piece of evidence I have for this is Legally Blonde. Legally Blonde follows Elle as she moves from California all the way to Harvard Law School in Massachusetts. Now, Elle believes that she needs to be with Barron, her ex-boyfriend, and that is what leads her to leave California and go to Massachusetts. But she eventually in the movie challenges that notion and realizes that her passion that she has found for the law can be better than that. It can be what she works for. She doesn't need Barron. She doesn't need any of the preconceived notions she had. She can be Elle. She can be a lawyer who's extremely fashionable and loves the color pink because of her analysis of her own preconceived notions in her life. And that brings us back to the quote, "Make sure your worst enemy doesn't live between your own two ears," from Laird Hamilton. And we saw through analysis of Inside Out, where we had a literal enemy in between our own two ears in our head, Alyssa Liu, where we redefined an activity that had previously brought us stress, and Legally Blonde, where we realized that we can abandon old goals and work toward new ones that we like better. That our preconceived notions don't have to stay where they are. We can challenge them and accept them or reject them if we find that they aren't suiting us. And even though I had preconceived that a black book was a 12-inch binder, I realized that, wait, that's not the story. Even though I had preconceived that pencils needed to stay sharp, they didn't have to be. I could make art. I could use them and create something beautiful. Thank you. Okay, none of those were perfect, but that's fine. 3 speeches, 1 day, great practice. Yeah. Doodles.